The Tommy Campbell Show. The Clinton depositions, Boebert's secret photo leak, Trump's latest demands for worship, and a wellness influencer who wants to be Surgeon General. We have a lot of crazy to get into today. Usually your doctor wants you to avoid picking that random mushroom from the yard for snack time, but Dr. Casey Means calls them a doorway to a different reality. And these days, I feel like we're all living in a different reality. We are beyond idiocracy when an Instagrammer who quit her surgical training and isn't currently practicing medicine is up for the top health job in the USA. The Senate hearing was something else to say the least, but we're not just looking at the bonkers testimony. We're going into the good energy of her book and the bizarre archives of her blog to find out why the administration wants to replace the nation's doctor with a woman who takes her medical cues from trees. But first, I can't stop laughing at this clip. I wish I knew who made it, but it's just so perfect because it's like we're seeing them for who they really are at the State of the Union, or as Newsom says, State of the Epstein. The State of the Epstein is so strong. He's a force ghost. And I love the ghost pottery graffiti. Okay, perfect. The Dow crashing. Is everybody having a good time? And this photo of Trump is tops. It's like he's Phil Spector. This week, Kash Patel used the FBI's Gulfstream jet, which costs about $15,000 an hour to operate, to go party in Italy. You know, hockey players aren't exactly the brightest, especially when they're this excited to party with a Fed. Maybe through the beer goggles and head hits, they heard Kash and they thought they were drinking with Slash. Don't see a top hat, definitely see the tax dollars evaporating. Actually, if this guy had a top hat, he'd be more like a leprechaun than Slash. This picture still gives me Elf on the Shelf vibes. Subscribe. Canadians did react rather passionately to losing both hockey gold medal games to the US this week. Okay, I'm being told that clip it's from Mexico. Unfortunately, things have calmed down there. Canadians were sad, but not burning cars sad, though getting caught on camera looting is even more sad. It is so cringe, and many are noting that just because he has the bag doesn't mean he's Canadian. It could be a trick. Yes, he's been playing 4D chess all along. This was his big plan. Keep that bag for when cartel violence erupts so he can pick up chips. I'm just saying, wherever he's from, my British wife has a name for him, and it rhymes with... While this was all going down in Puerto Vallarta, which, by the way, Elon Musk blamed President Sheinbaum for, and now she's taking legal action against him, Kash was partying in Italy. You know who I'd rather be eating or drinking with in Italy? Monica Bellucci or Valentina Nappi. But I definitely enjoy a meal with Stanley Tucci. The ladies were treated to high-end, farm-to-table Italian, and while the women were having a Michelin star meal with a film legend, the boys were having cold Happy Meals and an appearance at the State of the Union. That is not a hot ticket. Congratulations, you won. You are all going to Metallica at the Sphere. Sorry. Yeah, I had that wrong. It's a State of the Union and a bit of McDonald's. You have Stanley Tucci paying for a farm-to-table masterpiece for the women, while fellas get a table, and the closest thing they have to a farm is dining on cold fries in the presence of a pig. And just like I said at the Super Bowl, with this administration, visiting the White House is punishment. You should have to go there if you lose. Back in the day, you went to be honored. Now it's like, okay, you get to come and meet me. Lucky people, crowd around me while I do a poo.
Do you stand by what you said in your book, encouraging people to try psychedelics?
When it comes to psychedelic therapy for mental health issues, I think the science is still emerging. And so it would certainly not be a recommendation to the American people to do that under no circumstances. I do believe that there is exciting work being done in this area that needs to continue. To be very clear, under no circumstances would I recommend that the American people in this role are...
So you won't recommend it as a Surgeon General, but you're happy to recommend it in your book with Doctor and MD on the cover. These hot takes were her selling point. And when people are talking about using these for depression, PTSD, etc., they're talking about micro-dosing with the guidance of a doctor, not tripping balls like she is in her book, going full fear and loathing. I had been inspired to try mushrooms in what I can only describe as an internal voice that whispered, "It's time to prepare." I experienced the embodiment of being one with the moon, every star and every atom in the grains of sand I was sitting on. In my experience, psilocybin can be a doorway to a different reality. It allows me to realize that there's no limit to what is possible for a human life. If she thinks she's some kind of medical pioneer, she should probably check a map. While Casey is busy hearing voices in the moonlight, Australia has already legalized psilocybin for psychiatrists to prescribe, and the Netherlands has a legal framework for truffles. Other countries are doing the work to see if this can be used as actual medicine with real doctors. But Casey's approach is different. In her book, she's basically telling her readers to trip balls and just figure it out on your own. Maybe you tried these in your teens, maybe you didn't, but I have some wild memories of playing Mario Kart and eating pizza in my buddy Sean's basement. And as fun as that was, I can't think of anything more frightening than having a handful of those and then trying to adult. It's tough enough after some wine with dinner and suddenly you got to help with a math question. Like, you think a hangover is bad? Try having one with the kid. You can't just sleep it off, and you better believe it's going to be loud.
Okay, and in your newsletter number 33, you acknowledge that Peak has sponsored you. Now, were you aware that this company was served notice under California's Proposition 65 for containing and failing to disclose that lead above the allowable amounts of carcinogen and reproductive toxin was present?
This is before, during, and after the term. I take it very seriously, and I'll work closely with them to make sure there are no conflicts.
The point here is that you've received compensation from these companies, including Daily Harvest, where this company was subject to an investigation by the Food and Drug Administration after hundreds became seriously ill after consuming the product. And these are companies that you have received money from. They've been investigated, and you are railing out against pharmaceutical companies that you say are advertising these products that mislead the public, and yet you've received compensation from companies, and you've promoted them in your newsletter, and you're doing the same thing the pharmaceutical companies are doing by advertising and influencing people for these products that have been deemed to be unsafe for the public.
Don't trust their stuff, trust mine. And it's on sale right now. Casey's entire brand is built on manufacturing distrust in the FDA, the CDC, and anyone else who wears a lab coat instead of a Lululemon headband. While RFK is gutting the FDA and the CDC, the public is starting to treat US-made supplements like a carton of 7-Eleven sushi. Okay. I don't know about that. That's scary. That's dodgy. Let's not do that. There is a growing movement of Americans who are so terrified of the lack of oversight under this new leadership that they are looking north. People are literally sharing tips on online forums about creams and supplements from Canada, Australia, and Europe. The same socialist nightmare these people usually mock is now the gold standard for not dying from a brain energy gummy. In the US, the policy is basically eat the red bear and let us know if you're glued to the toilet. But countries like Canada actually require manufacturers to prove a product is safe and effective before it touches a shelf. RFK Jr. is making the country so medically chaotic that the public is seeking asylum in an Ontario Shoppers Drug Mart just to find a multivitamin that isn't 40% drywall. She even included a poem she wrote, and nothing says I'm qualified to lead public service like some Facebook Karen doctor anti-vax slam poetry. I'd bury research, seal the locks, then line you up for 73 shots. I'd cancel critical thinking, stop dissenters with bots, then jab your kids without a second thought. It goes on to blame processed poison in school lunches and sugary cereals for zapping our life force. It was 7 hours of a nominee auditioning for the top health job by refusing to give any actual medical advice, which is probably for the best considering she doesn't have an active medical license in any U.S. state.
Stanford, and as I understand it, she basically wanted to be an academic as opposed to a surgeon. I think she graduated first in her class at Stanford. And Bobby really thought she was great. I don't know her. I listened to the recommendation of Bobby. I met her.
Means doesn't publish peer-reviewed research in public health. She doesn't manage healthcare institutions or lead federal programs. Her qualifications begin and end with her diploma. An academic credential she treats like a prop despite no longer meeting the basic legal threshold to actually practice medicine. She is a wellness grifter, and no amount of Whole Foods shopping sprees or glucose monitors is going to stop you from catching the measles. We've come a long way from being cavemen. Those guys ate 100% organic, had zero big agriculture to complain about, and yet their life expectancy was dying of a toothache at 19. We should be grateful for modern medicine, for insulin, for pasteurization. It's genuinely alarming that we're living in an age where people want to jail Fauci, while championing the latest wellness influencer from a Joe Rogan podcast. Lauren Boebert snapped a photo of Hillary Clinton during a closed-door Epstein hearing and then sent it to Benny Johnson. This guy was so excited about getting something handy from Boebert, he Peter North watermarks all over the image. Seriously, dude, dial it back. You didn't find the Loch Ness Monster. You have a 78-year-old woman having her time wasted by a group of clowns. Boebert broke every House protocol to do this, and she's proud of it. You have Hillary Clinton, a Yale-educated lawyer, former First Lady, two-term Senator of New York, and Secretary of State, getting grilled by the girl who holds the record for the most arrests in Congress. This is the woman whose gun-themed restaurant, Shooter's Grill, didn't just run out of business. It ended its run by giving 80 people bloody diarrhea from unlicensed pork sliders at a rodeo. When she isn't poisoning the locals, her son is out wearing her merch while on a literal crime spree.
I never met Jeffrey Epstein, never had any connection or communication with him. I knew Ghislaine Maxwell casually as an acquaintance, but whatever they asked me, I did my very best to respond. I did not know Jeffrey Epstein. I never went to his island. I never went to his homes. I never went to his offices. So it's on the record numerous times. It then got, at the end, quite unusual because I started being asked about UFOs and a series of questions about Pizzagate, one of the most vile, bogus conspiracy theories that was propagated on the internet, that was serving as the basis of a member's questions to me.
You have a real pedo situation, and you're talking about a debunked conspiracy theory that led to a tragedy. Boebert and the gang were there to talk Epstein and ended up chasing aliens and ghosts. I know her focus wasn't all there at the Buell Theater, but did Lauren think Beetlejuice was a documentary? Clinton basically had to sit there and watch a live-action version of a bad threat on X come to life. While making her statement, Clinton again reminded everyone that she wanted this hearing to be public, mostly because she knew it would eviscerate these clowns on a national stage. They want the secrecy for themselves, but the leaks for their MAGA fan base. If you're willing to break House protocol with an iPhone shot, what else are you willing to break? Hillary spent a lot of time telling the committee to ask Bill. So they did, and Bill showed up with a statement that basically translates to, "My eyes were open, but my brain was on vacation." He told them, and I quote, "When a reporter asked about Ghislaine Maxwell attending Chelsea's wedding, Hillary didn't blink. She noted Ghislaine was there as a +1. We've all been there. You invite a friend and they bring a date who ends up in a federal correctional facility. It happens. But at least Hillary was under oath. In 2026, you can't just lie and get away with it. I mean, unless you're Howard Lutnick. Here's the photo the DOJ released in the Epstein files last month and then mysteriously deleted it before panic restoring it. This is Howard Lutnick in the blue shirt, standing on a cliff on Little St. James with Epstein and a group of fellas. Lutnick spent all last year telling anyone with a podcast that he cut ties with Epstein in 2005. Then under oath earlier this month, he suddenly remembered, I did visit the island in 2012, saying he was just stopping by for an hour during a family boat trip. He testified, and I quote, "We had lunch on the island with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife all together." First of all, nannies plural. That is an odd flex for a guy. How much do you have to suck at parenting that you need a rotating squad of nannies for a 1-hour lunch? Were they there for the kids or just to row in case the motor gave out on the way to Pedo Island? These are all grown men. So what are they? Are they mannies? What's going on here? I think Howard was lying when he said he never left his family's side on that island, because in this shot he seems to be side by side with a notorious predator and not a nanny in sight. It's hard to claim you're on a wholesome family outing when the only thing in the frame are Lutnick with a bunch of guys in polo shirts and the world's most famous notorious sex trafficker in nearly as much white cloth as Fred Trump.
His apple pie. I mean, he would Congressional Medals of Freedom, Congressional Medals of Honor, Olympic gold medals, Purple Hearts. It was as apple pie and patriotic as I've ever seen. I mean, the hockey team there. It was just, it was as apple pie as you get. And I always say
He's mentioned apple pie so many times, I'm starting to wonder if he's as into pies as J.D. Vance is into couches. Is he auditioning for a remake of that Jason Biggs movie from the 90s? But there is a lot of Maha irony here. He's praising this sweet, refined, carb, seed oil, calorie bomb, while RFK Jr.'s telling the country that sugar is a national security threat. GYM is as obsessed with insisting things are apple pie as Mike Lindell is as insisting things are steak sandwiches.
Gee, this is a phone. No, it's not. It's a steak sandwich. It's a coffee cup, or is it a steak sandwich? This is a tree. No, that's a steak sandwich. Hey, everybody, this is a steak sandwich. No, that looks like eyeglasses. No, it's steak sandwich. This is a glass of water. No, that's a steak.
America needs Mike Lindell. He is speaking the truth. Yeah, the country certainly needs Mike Lindell. Without him, who would remind the world that a steak sandwich is a household object in disguise? I mean, as for the truth, I think you'll find that the guy who earned a permanent F rating from the BBB for misleading customers isn't exactly brimming with integrity. And it's been 48 hours from proving a global conspiracy for what, like 5 years now? At this point, he's not a whistleblower. He's just a guy whose dyed mustache and Temu dentures keep getting in the way of the Fox 40 classic. MAGA tears. I think the workout with Kid Rock and Kennedy are great. Instead of on these two, Tubby Tommy should get some fitness himself. No idea where you're going for there, and I appreciate the concern, but I'm going to pass on the denim dunk and raw milk lifestyle. If more people start taking health advice from these nutters, there's actually going to be significantly fewer of you around in a few years. As for being Tubby, at what point in this show do you look at me and think, that guy's out of shape? I get a ton of exercise and eat well. If I'm going to get fitness tips, it's not going to be from the guy who considers a brain parasite as his +1 and thinks a departure gate is the new Muscle Beach. MAGA tears. All right, it's time to pick the recipient of the free hat from last week's community post. Quick legal check. This is not sponsored or endorsed by YouTube. As per the rules, no purchase was necessary to enter. I'm just going to scroll through the original post now, and whoever lands on this box, congrats to Mike Cruiser with a K. Your legs are why I don't wear shorts, kid. I'll reply to your comment on the original post with instructions. Go check that out so I can get this sent over to you. And a wellness influencer in nearly as much white cloth as Fred Trump. Sorry. He's mentioned apple pie so many times, I'm starting to wonder if he's as into pies as JD is into couches. Her loony loose letter. It's been a long day. Been a long day, folks.
I can confirm the Tommy Campbell Show is the best political comedy show on YouTube. And I hope you subscribe.